Do you ever wonder how government in Cincinnati operates? Like, really operates? Sign up for WVXU's City Government 101 newsletter. You'll learn all the basics and more in a weekly email, giving you the tools you need to stay informed and get involved. Sign up at WVXU.org.
Like the Novelizers? Then you'll love us live. The Novelizers is coming to Dynasty Typewriter in Los Angeles on August 27th at 7 p.m. with Paul Scheer, Colton Dunn, Andy Daly, and way more of your favorite funny people. Experience your favorite movies the way they were meant to be experienced, turned into audiobooks and narrated live at a movie theater. Plus, improv interviews with me, Christine Bullen. The Novelizers Live. Tickets available soon at dynastytypewriter.com. Today on the show, from Comedy Bang Bang, Scott Aukerman. From Bluebird Improv, Brad Morris. Plus, Nita Haberlein. It's the Novelizers.
Don't want your popcorn, don't want your milk duds, don't want my shoes stuck in pools of sticky cola. Don't show me romance, don't show me fist fights, just show me words printed out under the book lights. Yeah, baby, novelize that movie. Give me sentences, paragraphs, and nothing to see. Yeah, novelize that movie. Write a book and turn it into a podcast.
Welcome to another stellar episode of The Novelizers, the only show where classic films are turned into hilarious audiobooks narrated by celebrities. At least now that our arch rival, the Funny Classic Movie Book Podcast, has finally kicked the bucket. Good riddance. I'm Christine Bullen, filling in for Dave Hill, who has something important going on. I don't know. I'm joined by a man who never really has anything important going on, Stephen Levinson. Hi, Stephen.
Hey there, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Great. Nothing important going on, but otherwise, never. Otherwise,
No, just a boring person, boring life,
Yeah.
you know?
but I do live in Dayton, Ohio, so that at least is very
It's so
exciting.
interesting.
Yeah,
The most fascinating place on the planet. That's exciting.
yeah. So every day is an adventure.
Well, today on the show, we have one of my favorite people who I've worked with before on Comedy Bang Bang, Scott Aukerman. He wrote for Mr. Show. He's the co-creator of Between Two Ferns with Zach Galifianakis. He's the co-founder of the Earwolf podcast network. He's truly podcast comedy royalty. But today, he's slumming it with us.
We also have Brad Morris, an actor, writer, and director living in LA. He's a mainstage alum of Second City in Chicago and tours the country improvising with the group Bluebird.
You know, Bluebird just came to the theater in my little town, Bend, Oregon, that I just moved to, and it was brilliant.
Amazing. And our chapter today is written by Nita Haberlein, a hilarious comedy writer living in Michigan.
God, we're all over the country today. We're
All over.
It's great. You don't have to live in LA. You probably should if you want to be doing this, but you don't have to anymore. You know,
No, we are global.
we're global people. And where are we, Stephen, in our story?
I'm glad you asked. At this point in the story, Batman fights and captures the Joker. Both boats decide not to blow one another up, and then the Joker reveals his true nefarious plan to Batman, which is that he is going to drive Harvey insane.
Insane.
I hate that Joker.
Let's dive in. Scott Aukerman, novelize us.
Chapter 22. I do believe in fairies. But do they believe in each other? Novelized by Nita Haberlein. Narrated by Scott Aukerman. The night was in beast mode. Batman surveyed his surroundings, the unfinished skyscraper with its raw concrete floor and exposed steel beams, and the chaotic sprawl of hostages, clowns, and cops, all of whom were still trying to sort their shit out Gotham style. Batman knew that somewhere on the floors above the Joker was waiting, lording over the chaos he'd unleashed on the city below him. Batman swirled his cape dramatically, as was his wont, and began the ascent upstairs. All around, he heard the warning cry, "The clowns are hostages!" now rippling through the SWAT team's walkie-talkies. Clowns are hostages. Hostages are clowns, he repeated to himself as he climbed. Only when he said it, it sounded like the gluzza-huzza-huzza-gluzz. The gruff voice was a work in progress. He knew that quote-unquote gravelly was his North Star metric, but getting there wasn't easy. He had tried literally gargling with a handful of crushed gravel a couple of weeks back, but an unexpected plot twist in the Perfect Strangers rerun he was watching surprised him in mid-gargle, and he'd inhaled most of the rocks. On the plus side, his windpipe had finally scabbed over, and the result was pretty much what he'd been aiming for in the first place, but he could tell that everybody found it a bit over the top, and like a lungful of pea gravel, it stung. On the floor below him, the SWAT team encircled a few of the remaining clowns. "Hey, remember, the clowns are hostages. The hostages are clowns," Officer Rhiannon called over to Officer Dale, who had a clown pinned to the floor and was aiming a gun straight into his face. Dale hesitated. The clown was his hostage now. Did that make it a clown again? He tentatively set his gun to the side and removed the hostage's clown mask. My God, it was true. Behind the fiendish masks they wore, clowns were just innocent civilians. Dale choked back tears, remembering all the clowns he'd shot over the years. Just then, Officer James from SWAT Team B came barreling in from the adjacent room. "Hey, I'm up to 7 clowns now. These assholes are super easy to shoot," he yelled, grinning broadly at Dale. Dale opened his mouth to warn him that the clowns were hostages, but stopped short. God, he hadn't seen Jim this happy since the divorce. Lord knows it had taken so much from him. At times, he'd barely had the strength or spirit to keep fighting the good fight, but now he looked genuinely happy to be out here again, part of the team, doing good. Dale just didn't have the heart to tell him. 8! cried Jim, blasting another clown in the face as it tried to scramble to safety. He beamed at Dale. Dale gave him a weak smile and a thumbs up. Meanwhile, Batman had reached the top of the building. The Joker was perched theatrically on the exposed balcony, leaning over the edge of the scaffolding, his gaze lost in the abyss. Tarps billowed around him like sails in the howling wind. Batman swirled his cape a little too, but it just came off as self-conscious. He steeled his nerves and recited his litany before every battle. For Gotham, for justice, for Batdance, his favorite song of all time. The Joker wheeled around to face him as he advanced, and the pack of guard dogs surrounding him snapped to attention. "Joker, give me the detonator," demanded Batman in what he hoped was his most authoritative rasp. But it came out as an unintelligible growl. "It's a work in progress, Bruce," he reminded himself. The dogs growled right back at him, a series of guttural noises that sounded almost exactly the same as what he'd said, but somehow 1,000 times less stupid coming from actual dogs. It's not fair, Batman thought to himself. If he were dressed as a giant dog, people wouldn't keep smirking behind his back at his cool new growly voice. He kicked himself for not snapping up the name Dogman back when he'd had the chance. Come to think of it, he could have called himself Gunman and saved himself a ton of trouble, he thought to himself, patting around in his pockets for some kind of weapon or distraction. Some trusty bat rawhide or a can of bat kibble or a flipping gun would go a long way right about now. He rummaged about in his bat fanny pack and yanked out a giant metal canister that was eating up most of the space, right where he knew he used to keep a bag of begging strips. He peered more closely at the label. What was this anyway? Fucking bat shark repellent. What the absolute shit? Why was he even carrying this around in the dead center of Gotham City? He could have fit 2 bags of begging strips in there and a taser. He turned the canister over and scanned the label for any mention of other animals. Was it just for sharks? Would it work on dogs? He sprayed a quick trial puff toward the pack of dogs. They looked at each other for a moment. The dogs went absolutely apeshit and started to attack him. Meanwhile, on the river below, the Joker's mad social experiment was playing out. 2 boats rigged with TNT and caught in a deadly zero-sum game. On one boat, convicted felons being ferried from one bank to the other, and on the other boat, innocent law-abiding citizens just trying to make their way home. Each crew had been given a detonator which would destroy the other boat, and they only had minutes left to decide which boat would be the one to pull the trigger before the Joker blew them both to hell. Sometimes the only way to win is not to play. But more often, the only way to win is if you do play, like tennis. That would be a good example of that. One of the passengers was particularly eager to pull the trigger. I know exactly what you're thinking, but no, this was not the felon boat. It was the normal commuter ferry. We're all like, did this guy get on the wrong boat? But no, it's the whole new riff on the moral duality of man leitmotif. Anyway, we need to pull the trigger, the angry commuter said. What are we even waiting for? He appealed to the crowd. Those are felons. They've already thrown their lives away. We need to save ourselves. Many of the commuters piped up in agreement. These law-abiding commuters don't seem too concerned with abiding by the law, thought the captain of the ferry. He held the detonator gingerly in his hands and tried to reason with the crowd. Look, we're still alive, he said. That means those murderers on the murder boat have chosen not to murder us. Yeah, but I bet that's only because their captain is holding the detonator and he won't give it to all the people who want to pull the trigger. Oh, wait, hey, that's exactly the same situation as us, said one commuter. But we're still the good guys, aren't we? A passenger in the corner stood up. It's almost like deep within every person there's a duality. Both good and evil at war. You can't always tell which forces at play just by looking at a person. That's the danger of moral ambiguity. Why, you might see somebody who looks like a clown and then find out that actually beneath their mask they're a hostage. And a hostage might actually be a clown. That's actually really a bad example. I'm sorry. I've never made a speech on a ferry before. I thought I'd be better at it. The passenger sat down again. No, you're right, another voice agreed. The reason you never know if somebody is good or evil is because we're actually all both at the same time. Hey, one commuter said, if it's so arbitrary, we could literally flip a coin to decide the boat's fate. Or everyone's fate, chimed in another. The crowd murmured enthusiastically and began rooting around in their pockets for change. Man, thought the captain as he looked around the room, I wish I had the detonator for this boat. Back on the high-rise, Officer Dale had ventured up to the top floor and found Batman overrun by a pack of feral dogs. One dog had him by the waist, another by the ankle, a third had torn off his cape and was shaking it from side to side, drooling rabidly. Dale quickly raised his gun to his shoulder and sighted into the fray. He spotted the Joker at the center of the pack, merrily beating on Batman with a piece of rebar. Wait, muttered Dale, staring at the Joker's face. Clowns are hostages. Clowns are hostages. He lowered his weapon. Whew! That had been a close one. He'd almost shot an innocent hostage. Just because it looked and acted like the most murderous psychopath imaginable, actively carrying out a murder. Dale shook his head. Every face is a mask, he mused, and every mask hides the truth. Batman wrestled a rabid dog off his chest and looked over to see Dale smile serenely at the Joker and holster his gun. Help, you idiot, help me, Batman tried to yell. What? Asked Dale, squinting as he tried to decipher the barrage of guttural noises. Barked Batman. Dale was baffled for a moment. Then his eyes widened in comprehension. He clicked his radio on. Attention all units! The clowns are hostages, the hostages are clowns, and the Batmans are dogs! What? Yelled Officer Rhiannon through the walkie. The Batmans are dogs! Copy that. I guess the Batmans are dogs? Rhiannon called out tentatively to the rest of the SWAT team. Dale heard somebody reply indistinctly in the distance. What are the dogs then? Hostages? Clowns? Some other third thing? The dog that had ripped off Batman's cape was tangled inside it and had galloped across the room. The cape caught the wind and flapped majestically. Jesus, the dogs are Batman's, yelled Dale. The dogs are Batman's. Dale didn't know where to point his gun anymore. He set it on the floor and snapped into a smart salute as the dog tore across the hallway in front of him, whipping Batman's cape around from side to side and foaming profusely from the mouth and the ass. Batman took all of this in and howled in frustration, which honestly didn't help the situation. "What's the matter, Batty? Having a rough day?" quipped the Joker and burst into peals of maniacal laughter. Oh boy, he'd nailed it. Not everybody got his sense of humor, but that was their loss. He grinned and continued pummeling Batman with the iron bar, which was another good one, he chuckled appreciatively. Back on the river, the prisoners on the felon boat were clamoring for the transport officer to activate the detonator and blow the other boat out of the water. "What's the problem?" one yelled. "It's them or us, man! Now or never!" Just then, the biggest, baddest motherfucker on the whole boat stood up and began striding authoritatively toward the officer, sensing his fear, his panic, his utter unequalness to the task at hand. The officer was paralyzed by uncertainty. He had made up his mind like an hour ago that he was going to blow up that other ferry, but goddamn, this detonator was completely unintuitive. The Joker had not taken into account the layman's unfamiliarity with explosives. He looked back down again at the blinking lights, the key, the exposed wires, some weird metal spike jutting out the side. He prodded listlessly at the spike and looked around the room, willing someone to intervene. He remembered only yesterday feeling this same sense of helplessness, confusion, the rush of vertigo. He had arrived at the mall children's play area with his kids and encountered some kind of devilish new child-proof gate barring the entrance. It seemed impossible that something so apparently simple could be so complicated. Did you push the button and pull the bar toward you, or did you twist the knob and lift up? Was this even the correct side to open it from? He had tried everything while desperate not to let on that he was out of his depth. "Dad, open the door," they'd clamored. "Dad, please, why can't we go in? It looks so fun." "Dad, we're gonna fucking kill you and take that detonator off of your mangled corpse." The last part was now, but he was off in another world and time. "Who wants soft pretzels?" he murmured to no one in particular. The hulking prisoner had reached him by now and held out his hand for the detonator. "Do you have soft pretzels?" he asked very quietly, his face and neck tattoos glimmering in hope. The officer shook his head. "Give me that detonator then, asshole. I'll do what you should have done way back at the start of the last chapter." If the prisoner blows up the ferry, turn to the next page. If the prisoner throws the detonator out of the window, turn to page 10. Look, I'm just the narrator, but the next page has a giant "The End" in all caps halfway down it, and there's a picture of a skull drowning in like a pool of pus, so I think we should just skip to page 10. So we'll go to page 10. Okay. The transport officer handed over the device, relieved to be free of the weight of this decision, and incidentally, eager to see how the detonator actually worked, hoping it might give him a clue the next time he was at that mall play area or on another ferry in this exact situation. The prisoner took the device in hand and then turned and tossed it through the open window into the river below. "Crap!" yelled the officer. The lack of closure on this was gonna kill him. And he was starving, too. He'd murder every person on this boat for a soft pretzel right about now. Meanwhile, Batman had managed to extricate himself from the frenzy of rabid dogs by using a bat ball. That's what he called baseballs, because he hit him with a bat. He found the ball deep in the recesses of one of his bat cargo pockets and flung it 20 feet down the hallway. The dogs skidded off after it, their long, lethal claws clicking loudly against the concrete as they scrabbled away. Batman looked at the Joker and shook his head. There's chaotic evil, and then there's just being too much of a J-hole to take your dogs to the groomer. He advanced on the Joker, and the plot thickened.
Thanks, Scott Aukerman. We'll be right back after this. We are so back! Of course, every week on the show, we interview someone who actually worked on the film The Dark Knight. Like, for real, worked on the film. And this week is no exception. Let's hear that interview.
Hey everybody, welcome to the interview portion of the Novelizers. I am Kevin Carter. I'm here with a Jerry Grinsp, who was the set costumer for the movie The Dark Knight. Jerry, how's it going today?
Hi, Kevin. I'm doing great. I'm very honored to be on with you.
Okay, cool. Yeah. For the people that don't know, what is a set costumer?
A set costumer's job is to essentially assist the key costumer or the head costumer. Sometimes you'll get assigned to particular actors or to focus on a particular part of costuming. And in my case, on The Dark Knight, I was there doing work with the glasses. So any of the actors or characters that were wearing glasses, that's kind of Jerry's territory.
Okay. So so it's just, when you're looking at the glasses, is it like, okay, this person has this face for these glasses? Like how detailed are you with that?
Yeah, I'm always looking for inspiration, and I'm creating sort of a look board like directors do. Some of the directors I've worked with in the past, they don't appreciate the detail that I go into when I'm putting these boards together. And in this case, on the glasses that Michael Caine's character, Alfred Pennyworth, wears on Dark Knight, I ended up being inspired by a conversation that I had with Michael Caine about what his favorite pasta shape was. And he loves a mezzaluna pasta. It's a half moon. I think that's what it translates from in Italian. And so the glasses we ended up with are these little kind of crescent moon, they're almost little pastas, or some people said they look like tiny calzones, things like that, hot pockets. So that's an example.
Which is very good, because I'm pretty sure Michael Caine was appreciative of that. Like, it's not just about me playing, the butler or whatever. It's about me. He cares about me,
I would say he was a little bewildered because he said, wait a second, I've never seen glasses this shape before. And I said, well, but do you know why? Well, I turned it into a little bit of a guessing game, and he did not appreciate that. He wanted me to just explain it to him. And he did involve Christopher Nolan in the conversation briefly. And
So was Christopher Nolan guessing as well? Was everybody just guessing?
He was less guessing, more yelling a little bit. But I didn't. I never let it get to me. And people have said, you've got thick skin. And I've said, I've been tested for different things, and it could be thick skin. It could be something else. And neurodivergence now is a sexy term.
Yeah, it's very sexy.
At the time, we just didn't know. So yeah, but boy, I persevered. Michael Caine. I don't do a great Michael Caine impression, but he's basically said, all right. So there we were, and we made it through. And so, I'm very proud that in this movie, when people watch it, they're seeing glasses that I've been on the boards. I understand some people say, what, why? Yeah. But the truth is, it's inspired by a conversation about noodles.
Yeah. And that's sometimes as fans, right? We don't see the process. We don't understand how hard this job is. This is a cult class. This goes on one of the greatest movies ever. And just the glasses makes part of that. How does it feel to be part of such history?
I do go to some of the cons sometimes just to try and interact with some of these fans. And occasionally it gets a little ugly because, again, people say, that was a very distracting choice. I love everything about the movie except for Michael Caine's glasses. And so then I'm put into a tough spot. Yeah. It feels amazing to be, I like to consider myself to be one of the little tassels on the quilt that's on the couch of movie history. That's how I describe it.
Hey, listen, each piece makes the couch, though. It's needed. And
Michael and I became, I don't want to say friends because that assumes more of a two-way street in that regard.
And I mean, I want to give you some credit here. I've always been told the way to move forward in a relationship is figuring out what kind of pasta a person likes. And those are very serious questions to let someone know, hey, I'm serious about our friendship. I want us to go there.
And we talked about a fusilli frame, which it got too complicated. It really was going to be difficult to even rest on the underside of the eyes. But, Michael and I, we talked a lot about pasta. We talked a lot about food. And I had to remind him, I'm actually not in the production assistant department. So when you're saying, can you get me more of that ravioli? Yes, I'm going to try and facilitate that. But I've got to tend to other people. Because remember, Commissioner Gordon, he's also got glasses. And I got to keep an eye on that.
I'm listening from the outside in. It looked like Michael Caine was trying to be a friend. And I don't know if you thought of that. It's like maybe he was just doing this because he was like, we have a connection.
If we weren't friends, we were certainly co-workers.
And that's beautiful. So I want to talk about like what got you into this field. Like, because like I said, it's such a niche thing. It's like, how did you get into a field like this?
So I was working for the Chicago public school system, and I was a fourth grade teacher for a little while. And I was bullied mercilessly by a couple of students. And it's very rare to get the student on teacher bullying.
Yeah, what do you mean you say mercilessly?
Look, I understand I've got a name that sounds like it's out of a Dr. Seuss book, right? My name is Jerry Grintz, and the P is not silent. I don't need it emphasized, but it does exist there. And so they would say, "Oh, here he comes. It's Mr. G. Don't forget to P, and don't forget the P." And they really focused on the P. And I didn't love it. I spoke to my vice principal. I ended up having to petition the school system at large. And at the end of the day, they just said, "Not everyone's cut out for this, Jerry." And I said, "Well, then, cut me out." And
That's a very interesting way to find your true love.
So I was looking for work. I was working for a small amount of time at World Market. If I'm going to have to work in retail, I want to be looking at sort of where are the cookies from Sweden? That's got its own little area there. And I like to see the imports from all over the place. And I assume that's why they call it World Market. But it's fascinating. There's so many colors and details. And one of the managers there said, "We don't think you're actually perfectly suited for this job either, but I've got a friend who's in tabletop production work," which tabletop production is all the photography and filmmaking that takes place for commercials that involves the product itself.
Okay.
The only human beings that you'll ever see on camera in a tabletop production are the hands. Models.
Yeah.
So I did that for a little while, and I got really fascinated with all the little details, basically. And people kept saying to me, "You're perfect for this when you're focused on these details and you're not actually interacting with people."
Yes. So you're best when you're just alone working away from everybody else.
I would say, "What's this part of this stage?" And they would say, "It's the bathroom, but stay in there and let's have you sort through." Sometimes they would say, "We have to find the perfect shreds of cheese for a Taco Bell commercial for the chalupa." And so there I was, and I was just literally sitting on a toilet with the cover on it. And I had big bins, and I was sorting with tweezers through to find the perfect shreds of cheese. And, it's like you said, it's being a tiny part of the fabric of the larger piece, which I really get inspired by.
Yeah. It's good to know that you truly got past the bullying. The bullying went away, you know what I'm saying, to where now them putting you in a bathroom isn't bullying. That's inspiration. That's inspiring, you know what I'm saying? So
it was inspiring to me. They said it was helpful to the production. And so I've it's a metaphor, but it's also a real thing, which is, throw me in a bathroom and I think put a little wood wedge in there. I mean, I probably was a fire hazard, but the reality was I was able to focus in there. I did my work. And before you know it, I got into assistant set costuming. And in Chicago, there's not a lot of production. I tried to go to Hong Kong with them on the Dark Knight, and they said, "You know what, Jerry, we're good."
They got different bathrooms in Hong Kong, so I'm assuming you may not be able to work as well. So I got a question for you. Was it ever a time where they put the glasses on, and then you thought to yourself, "That's not it"? Like that didn't work.
With Gary Oldman. And I want to get to know Gary. And he made it very clear because he had heard about what was going on with me and Michael. He said, "I don't need to meet. Please keep him away from me," I think was what he said. And I didn't take offense to it.
Yeah, he's probably not a pasta guy. He's probably
not a pasta guy. As it turns out, he's also not a Dwayne Wayne from Different World guy. Because I first pitched him the flip ups.
You pitched the flip ups?
I pitched the flip ups. I think it would have been great, and but he did not agree.
Oh, damn it, Gary!
I know. He said, "I like the show fine." Again, this is coming through intermediaries, and they said no. And so I actually was back against the wall. I couldn't use pasta. But I don't know if you remember the Andes mints. Do you know those mints?
Yes, I remember the Andes mints, yeah.
So food shapes are fascinating to me. And so I said, these are going to look like two Andes mints, but you'll be able to see through them and you won't be able to eat them. And
exactly.
Said, we don't need all that. But, and boom, though, made it in the movie.
So there's a lot of people who want to get in the biz, right? And it may not be the actor or the director or whatever, right? But just certain parts of the business, right? I wanted to know if you had anything that you could say to anybody out there, any advice for them.
It's a difficult business to get into, and to some degree, I'm still in it. To some degree, I'm not. And some of that is by choice, and some of it is not. But I will tell you that when I'm at an airport waiting to board my plane, I love to look out over those huge windows and down onto the tarmac and see all the work that's happening, because people forget about that. And one of my very favorite roles in all of aviation is the person who is putting those very simple wood blocks in front of the wheel, and then
yeah.
So the plane can't really roll away. And I'm always thinking to myself, well, wow, the plane's got to weigh a lot. But I guess if you don't put the little doorstop there, like the one that trapped me in the bathroom, then the plane's going to maybe roll away. So to me, I guess I feel like there's room for everyone, including the people that put the wood in front of the plane tires.
Yeah. Yeah. Jerry, it's been a great time having the conversation with you and just seeing your side of it when it came to the movie. And also I want to say congratulations again, because even though you were just the little thread, the little thread on the tassel, you were still part of history. So I still want to say thank you for that.
Kevin, this has been a great honor for me. And like I said, I hope that, I'm able to inspire some people that want to be a tiny piece of something that they can be proud of. Thanks so much.
That's great. All right, Novelizers, you heard it here. This is Kevin Carter. That was Jerry Grinsp. And this is the Novelizers.
Thank you, Kevin. And thank you to this week's guests, Scott Aukerman, Brad Morris, and Nita Haberlein. Next week, we'll be back with an episode narrated by Michael Chernis from Severance. You a fan of Severance, Christine?
Oh my God. And such a fan of Michael Chernis on Severance.
He is. He nails it. See you next time.
Bye.
The Novelizers is hosted by me, Dave Hill, and produced by Stephen Levinson. Hey, Stephen. With Graham Douglas, Cole Emhoff, Kevin Carter, Christine Bullen, Dennis DeClaudio, and Rob Kuttner. Music by Cole Emhoff. Additional editing by Sunita Haberlein. Graphic design by Crystal Dennis. Theme song by Andrew Lynn. Performed by Knots. Additional support by Elizabeth Taveras. Distributed by Cincinnati Public Radio. The Novelizers is an AI-free podcast, written, narrated, and edited, and scored entirely by human beings. Can you imagine that? The Novelizers is a work of unauthorized parody. Follow The Novelizers on Instagram, Threads, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube, and please support us on Patreon. Copyright 2026 Novelizers, LLC.
Do you ever wonder how government in Cincinnati operates? Like, really operates? Sign up for WVXU's City Government 101 newsletter. You'll learn all the basics and more in a weekly email, giving you the tools you need to stay informed and get involved. Sign up at WVXU.org.